Alright, let me check my microphone here. Looks like the microphone's good. Alright, let's get into this. Let's see, I'll give people a few minutes to show up typically, but we'll get started here. We're going to do a little bit of Linux today. We're going to focus on the testing methodology and some of our just different things that we can do around testing and systems to see how fast they are. Maybe compare some different things and, you know, see what the different behaviors are that we see in our system. So, hey Morrison, how's it going? I also have the music off because for some reason, I'm not sure what's going on, and it's super annoying. But you know, you buy the music off of something like Humble Bundle, and then you just get a bunch of like music strike claims against you, like you're using something that you don't have the license to, and that's super annoying. So I decided to just skip all that, and we'll just play it a little more quiet today, I guess. So you guys can think of this like a Het Tanis ASMR Linux or something, but that's, yeah, that's awkward. But anyways, that's what we'll do. So what are we doing today? We're talking a little bit about my testing methodology. This is a way that I like to look at things. It's not the only way to look at things. I was talking earlier this week on a project that I'm leaving, and I was mentioning that most of the things I say or do on here are a way to do it. They're not the only way. I will posit that they are as easy a way as I know how to do things, but they are not that. They are not prescriptive in that I'm not telling you you must take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Like it'll fix all your problems. That's not what I'm saying with any of this. What I'm showing you guys is a way to do things, right? Like, and this is one of the things I tell people all the time. Take what's good. Even when you read a book, even when you do a lab or something, take the good things out of it and throw everything else out, right? I heard a quote earlier today. It said, "From all teaching," I'm paraphrasing. I'd have to go look it up again, but it was like, "From all teaching, take what's good, leave what's bad, and add what's uniquely your own." And I was like, "That's pretty. I'll buy that for $1. That's pretty all right." Do I have a playbook that I operate out of that you go down the checklist? Morrison, I do enjoy checklists. I do make checklists quite a bit, and I do make outlines a lot. I think that's something that I've done well as an engineer. Actually, you know what? I need to write that. Hold on. I need to add that to, well, oh, this was our thing from last night. Right up. Notes. Right. Up outline. Man, I wish I could type today, man. I just woke up. I just took a little nap, and I'm dying. Yeah, start 2 containers and call me in the morning. Last Chain, Tawny, Morrison, Michael Pest, all you guys that are here, thanks for showing up. On the YouTube side, I haven't seen anybody pop up yet, but I know some people are kind of lurking. And you know what? It's too quiet. I'm gonna risk the music. I guess I'll risk the music, and if the music gets us another little. It's not like I got a ban. It's just that I got this annoying little thing that said like, "Oh, you can't monetize because you're using somebody else's music," and I'm like, "Well, not really. You know, it's music that I have a license for from buying it off a Humble Bundle." Yeah, Isobu. If you haven't been around on Fridays, I always hop on right after I get off of work before the date night with the wife. So I hop on. It's almost like I'm here hanging out with you guys right up until she gets here. So. Yeah, any of you guys that are here, though, I definitely appreciate you guys stopping by. But, yeah, let's do a little bit of Linux. So let's get this out of the way, and we'll talk about my testing methodology. Before we do that, I'm going to start with a lab on NFS configuration. And you're going to see why in a second that I do this, but I'm going to pin it over on the Twitch side. And then I know now that I can pin it on the YouTube side as well. I can just click on the... Their UI is super weird, and there's this little heart in the way, so I'm trying to like grab it around the heart. So I'm just gonna do something weird and make another letter so it pushes up. It's super weird, I know. But now we've got this pin message. If anybody wants to do this lab with me, this is gonna seem like I'm doing something really simple, and I am. But the main thing about what I'm doing is I have 2 nodes, right? 2 nodes. Those one that I started in control plane and the other one, and I can SSH between them, and I can see that they're both there. So now when I get into my testing methodology in a little bit, I'll have something to do. So I'm going to open this up, and it says, your team has determined they need an NFS share to facilitate system access across multiple servers from one central location. Okay, that's what NFS is good for. NFS is really good for simple configurations. You're not typically going to run an application out of NFS. You're going to use some kind of like API driven or like typically like an object store that something can just call, do API calls against and pull multiple things. But NFS is great for hosting a file system that you mount and you move files into and out of that are config based. When I say config files, I mean things that don't change much. Like 1,000 nodes can just slurp down all those files really quickly as they turn on. And it doesn't, there's no weight to it. There's literally kilobytes being sent over the network to each device, and it's nothing. So it's a grace. Yeah, database by NFS, sure. I like that. That's funny. All right, so let's deploy an NFS server real quick on node 01. We'll set it up, and then we'll get to kind of our testing of it. Because, this is one of these things I tell you guys, like, we could talk about how fast it is, but why don't we go test it? Why don't we do that idea that I'm always talking about of one test? It's coming across the bottom right now. One test is worth 1,000 expert opinions. Let's see if it's really a faster style of file system than others. We can hold it in our hands. We can touch it ourselves and see. But you just probably need to see the tools. Some of you guys may have never seen the tools that exist for touching this stuff. All right, so let's SSH to node 01. Make sure that there's no package there for NFS. And we'll install the NFS kernel server. And while that's running, I'll try to answer this question. Hold on real quick. Random question. What do you use for taking notes? I've been using Notepad++, and sometimes it is not enough due to the inability for photos or better understanding. Sometimes it's both Linux and Windows compatible. Yeah, so Morrison, Notepad++ is great for me for everything I do out of the terminal. I literally have everything I need to do out of the terminal in Notepad++. But if you were to say instead, hey, Scott, what if I wanted to, grab pictures and stuff? Then I have to use something like OneNote typically, and that's more over on the Windows side of things. OneNote works, and then there's another tool. What's that tool? There's different ones. There's like an old. I think they stopped supporting it, but there was an Atom. But I think that one was also based on just text. So to be honest, most of my note taking is done directly there. However, can I tell you, if you guys really needed something to take notes in, Excalidraw would be excellent. You can do your images up there. So if you were hard pressed for something that works everywhere, you got to remember the browser is one of the best applications around. This is the app. There's no longer a need for anything. So you go to Excalidraw, right? So you take your Excalidraw, you back out. We were talking systems administration the other night, and then I need to add, I can add photos here. And I think that if I wanted to, I'm pretty sure if I just grab, let's say I just grab some part of this screen real quick, right? I just do something like this, and I copy this, copy it, and I'm pretty sure that I can just paste that image right in there. So that would be a pretty effective way for that. Yeah, and Visual Studio I think would be fine as well. I use VS. Some of you guys know I use Visual Studio for things as needed. I don't know if Visual Studio has a Linux port or not, but it might. Yeah, guys, you guys will find often when we talk about things that I'm not a big stickler on like exactly what you use as a tool. For me, it's all about that. Never looked back since Visual Studio Code. Yeah, and VS Code, for some of you guys that really love it, I think VS Code is great. But I've shown you guys before. Let's get this out of the way. There is also, for some of you that haven't used it, let's check real quick here. Hold on. Oh shit, where did it just go? VS Code. There is a Excalidraw, so we can open. So if I go to Open Recent and I just grab one of these Excalidraw drawings that I have, boom, I can open it right here inside of my system. I can do whatever drawings I want. I can save it back to an Excalidraw it's actually .excalidraw is the extension they use, and then I can share it back out with my team via the open source. VSC is open source. Yeah, okay, Kaizen, that's awesome. Yeah, I never get like any one tool directly. I don't let it affect me, but I'll use anything to get the job done, right? So the question was, what do I use for notes? I will use pretty much anything, but what comes out of my terminal tends to go into like a dark background note, OneNote. OneNote's pretty excellent for everything terminal, like anything I'm doing. What was I doing here? I was doing something with storage troubleshooting network. This looks like this was the overall outline for a CKAD, I believe. That's what that looks like. Yep, CKA. That's just CKA. Yeah, because that's cluster. The troubleshooting 30%, that's a CKA, right? So I don't know why I pulled this out and put this in here, but I did. All right. So, but I have all my notes, and professionally I use that too. I pull a lot of notes out of a system, and then I go look at them later. I pull things out. Kaizen Lab. I can't actually see that. You might have to drop it in our maybe in our Discord or something, then I can pull it up. And my normal mod, Robodom, said he'd be a little late, so we don't have. Normally he could like give you like I think a minute to send a link or something. I don't know. All right, but anyway, so let's do this real quick. Let's move on, and we're building out, and we've added the NFS server over here. Some of you guys have done this lab with me before. We see that we're listening to. I'm going to make that just a little smaller so it doesn't look so terrible. But we can see that NFS is running, and then we can see that it's listening on port 2049 for both the UDP and the TCP connection. For all of IPv4 addresses, that's what these represent. They're a mask for all. And then for all IPv6 addresses right there. So anything can connect to this box, at least at this level, right? Okay, so we come down a little bit. We can look at the UFW status to make sure the firewall's off. We at least see that it's disabled or inactive. Let's go add in our Etsy exports. So Etsy exports, Shift G to go to the bottom, hit O to go to the next line. And we're going to add this line right here, share. We're going to add /share to everywhere, anybody that wants to connect, and they're going to be able to read or write from that. So escape :WQ cat Etsy exports. It's funny that my my closed captioning cannot keep up with any Linux talk, which is kind of funny. Yeah, I agree. Find what's best that works for you. Absolutely. I tell people all the time, I'm not going to be prescriptive about how you should do things, but just do what works well for you. Now, real quick, if I add that in there, and I do a show mount -e, or I do a on this system I do export fs, I don't see anything, right? But then if I do a systemctl restart for the NFS server, and then a show mount -e, I should see. What I should see is that system. So let's see. Hold on. I don't know if I just messed something up there. Share subtree check. Okay, that looks right. Right. Restart NFS server .service. Yeah. This is kind of a weird function in a lab. I haven't seen that before. So we're going to go do our command from earlier, which is status. So now we see that it's failed. And why is it failed, right? So we'll take off the no pager so we can see, why did it fail? Well, it's going to fail because I skipped this step where we had to make that share. So that was my fault there, guys. Oh, jeez. Let's make that directory share so that we're not being dumb, and then we'll restart the service, and then we'll see that it's shared out. That was my fault, guys. I was not paying attention to my own lab. So now if we do our check, we'll see that it's good. The check in the background of this lab makes sure that NFS is there, and that's good. And then now we've got to set up a mount point on this node to be able to see it. So we'll install our NFS client over on this side. And we will then mount that share just to test. Sami, if you're trying to start doing Linux, you can click on that link I posted and just start doing this with me. It'll walk you through. This is a free site called Killer Coda, and you just sign in with like any kind of Google. You can use any email address to get in there, but if you have Google Federated Authentication, you can just get in with that. And if you don't know what Google Federated Authentication is, that's fine. It happens in the background. It just means you have a Google account. It's just a way of saying that they trust Google, that you are who you say you are. So we added that. We mount it, and it'll show now. If I do a df-8, if I do a df-h on mount, I should see that I'm mounting off of Node 01's file system the /mnt. All right, so that's all good. I can touch a file system, and what I need to do real quick is I'm going to unmount it, and I'm going to add that into my etcfs tab. I'm going to add this line right here. And what this line says is, from Node 01, take the share directory. So this is the mapping to where we're trying to mount from. We're going to mount to our /mnt with the NFS type file system. We're going to take the defaults. We're never going to fsck it. That's what the 0 here stands for, is we're never going to check that file system. And this right here says we're never going to back it up. That's what those two lines mean. And let's go ahead and do a mount-a. So a mount-a is this nice little trick here where it'll show us that it was able to mount with no problem. So there it is. Boom, it's mounted. We can touch that file. It's already there. We see that's there. We're good. All right. So we've done the lab, and we could be happy. Let's move this over. We could be very happy with the fact that between these two systems, we now have a functioning NFS system, right? So I do a df-h on mount, and if I touch some files over here, so touch, I don't know, mnt stream test 1, and then I SSH to node 01, and I CD to share, and I ls, I should see stream test 1 that I just made, and okay, data are moving, right? So then maybe the question we might ask, we might come over here and we might do some testing off of this. So we got 48 minutes left in this lab without paying anything, right? It's a free lab. But let's talk about our testing methodology for a little bit. So my testing methodology always looks the same way. If you ask me to test whether the sky is blue, if you ask me to test whether a server was on, maybe these things are a little simple. But if you ask me to test anything, I would use this basic methodology. This is what I do. I write this up. I use this at work all the time. This permeates like every different presentation you guys have seen from me. Most of you that have been here before are like, Scott's he's a one-trick pony. He does that same thing every time. Yes, I do. Yes, I do, people. It's the same thing, and it works every time. So, this is it. Purpose. What are we doing? We want to test. So we want to see here. In our test, we're going to test how fast the two file systems are. A local file system and a remote file system, let's say. The scope, what are we conducting? We're going to conduct, so the scope will be, we are conducting this against an ext4. Let's see. Let's do a ls block ID. Block ID shows that our primary VDA1 right here is an ext4. Okay, so an ext4 partition versus an NFS partition. Yeah, we want repeatable good results and reproducible good results. Yeah, we want repeatable and reproducible. I agree. And Veer, hey, how's it going on the YouTube side? For you guys on the YouTube side, I'm not ignoring you. I just look up every now and then. We are going through and looking at a set of servers that are now set up with NFS. And now we're going to test how fast, we're going to go put our foot down a little bit. So the scope, what'll be in scope will be an ext4 file system local and an NFS file system mounted remotely. NFS, in fact, NFS version, it's mounted as NFS version 4 in this case, if we care, right? Yeah. Last chain. I tell people all the time, it's like that movie Gladiator, where he's like, it does not matter what comes out of that gate. If we stick together, we've got a better chance to survive. They're about to do the Battle of Carthage, and they're about to get crushed by the legions that come in, and they have the chariots, and they're about to just murder all these guys. And remember, Marcus Aurelius is like, if we stick together, we can win. And they kill all the chariot guys, and at the end, they kill all the gladiators that are just supposed to come in and murder them all. And the guy watching the battle's like, hey, weren't we supposed to win the Battle of Carthage? He's like, my history is a little shaky, but weren't we supposed to win that? But the point is, obviously these gladiators didn't want to just die. And my point here is it doesn't matter what somebody asks me to test. It's going to look like this every time. So what's out of scope? Well, I'm not going to test maybe my boot sector. I'm not going to test every type of file. I'm not going to test any Btrfs, Btrfs, or any of these other things. I'm just gonna test these two normal functioning file systems, right? Unless you're battling with pandemic, then distance better. Fair. Methodology. My methodology is going to be given two file systems, one locally mounted ext4 and one NFS. We're going to do some different size writes into the file system, and then we're going to record those at similar load levels, what we call ceteris paribus. It's an ceteris paribus, which is spelled right there, but it's two words. It's ceteris paribus. That is, it's actually an economics term, which means all other things being held equal. And the thing is, when you've got any equation, any engineering equation, most of you know this if you did algebra, which I'm sure you all did. Once you get to a third variable, it's an unsolvable equation, right? Now you can do stuff to try to figure it out, but after you get your third variable involved, you've got problems, right? Well, there's so many variables in systems. So we do what's called ceteris paribus, which is we hold all other things equal without caring about them. We assume they're static. They're not truly static. Things are changing on these back-end systems all the time. But as best we can, we hold them static. So that's called ceteris paribus. It's an engineering concept. It's more of an economics term, but it's still a valid thing to know. And then our control. What's our control? Well, we're going to use the same system with no other changes. Again, we're going to hold everything else equal. All right, so so my testing outline looks like that. And then benchmarking is an iterative process. We went over this the other night, so I'm not going to hit this too hard, but we want to define an experiment here. We're going to define an experiment, we're going to do it, and then we're going to figure out how we want to improve it, right? So I'm going to come down here. Here's some iPerf tools, some different ways that we can do DDDs. We're going to do DD here. And then this is how I might actually practically do it. I'm not going to write that up, but if I was doing this professionally, I would write these up with these. I would be putting the stuff directly in here. But here's an example name of a server. But let's do some tests real quick. We've got two places. So maybe I say echo slash is where I'm going to hit. Maybe, I don't know, slash is where I'm going to hit ext4, right? And then what's this other one? This other one is MNT is where I'm going to hit NFS, right? So boom, I might even just take that just so I have it in my screen session or tmux in my logging so I know. And then I start doing a test. I'll say for I in, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 5 tests. We'll do 5 tests. If we wanted to, we can do it like this. We can do a $sequence 5. So we'll just count to 5. And then if I want to test this and see that my logic is good, I say do echo I am writing file $I done, and it'll just do my loop. It'll show me that my loop is good. Now the trick is anything between do and done, I can do whatever I want with in here now. So I'm going to say dd, which is a disk duplicator command that we can use to create things. How's it going, Twisted Seed? We're doing simple Linux stuff, but it looks complex on the outside. Plus, for people that get here a little later, they're probably like, oh, what the hell is this guy doing? I'm doing simple things. I'm going to do them against 2 different file systems. So watch. I'm going to dd. My in file is going to be dev. We'll take dev0. We're not trying to use random. Random would introduce... random and urandom would be taking from the processor, and we're going to try to avoid that. So we're just going to go grab zeros off a location inside of the file system that is just going to ask and get a 0 back every time. Our out file for the first writes is going to be into slash, and it can be anything in slash. We know temp is mounted in slash from other stuff, so let's just say temp test file 1, and we'll do $I. So that'll just write that out. And then we're going to do the block size is 1024K. So 1024K is 1 meg. And we'll do a count, in this case, maybe, of 500. So they're half a gig each. And there's going to be 5 of them. And we're just going to write them out. So it's going to say I'm writing the file. Boom, 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 boom. Now I go and I take these little tasty pieces of data, and I can do a few things. I can average them up. Here's my average writes into the file system right here. And I can take those and I can, guys, you think I'm like joking about being super simple. I will add these things up and divide them by 5 and go drop them directly in here. What did I just do? I made an average, right? So I will grab these values right here and say that's my average writes. But I might say, you know what? What if I did that again? Let's write over the top of it and just test. Am I getting about the same speeds? Yeah. And by the way, like, you can do this a few times, right? Your methodology is your own, but let's just say that I kind of eyeballed it and like just kind of stuck my finger up and looked at it kind of like I was looking down a site, and I said, I don't know, we're averaging about 550, right? Maybe I said that out loud without doing all the math. And I could throw that in over here. And I could say my disk writes, so I would change this. Disk writes for the root file system. My disk writes at a block size of 1024K. I'm not messing with the block sizes, but I do mess with the block sizes when I'm writing out into storage area networks in SAN. That's called a SAN, a storage area network. I do always change the block size around for optimized writes, but that's just that would just be another thing in my testing, right? Does that make sense? So I did my writes here. Let's do that same test. Watch, this is how sneaky this is. I can simply change this to MNT. And now I'm going to do that same 5 writes into the /MNT, which is my NFS. And let's see how long this one takes to write. Now this is writing across an NFS link over to the other side, and then it's being placed down on that side's disk. That disk over there is operating at the same speed as this one. Hey, how's it going? The real Sega. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. But I appreciate you guys coming by. We're just hanging out on a Friday. Fridays are for me to kind of hang out before the wife gets home. We do date night. So I hop on and we just kind of hang out for an hour. And I got on a little early, so you guys got a little more time with me. But what we're doing is benchmarking and practical application. Or I'm doing a practical application of benchmarking and my testing methodology. So that's still writing that same little 500 gig file over there. So by the way, check this out. I am root Kaizen. Yes. Let's go over here. Let's open up a new tab real quick. I'll show you guys something cool. That's writing over there. Now it's on file 2. Look. Oh gosh. Oh geez. Let's go over here. I'll show you guys something cool. On this other node, I can SSH to node 01, and then I can just say while true do du-sh on mount, and then I can say ls-l or let's just ls-l on smnt, and then sleep 2, done. So watch this. Oh well, that's weird. Oh, it's not mount, it's share over here, guys. I'm dumb. Right, because this is what's being shared out. I apologize. I'm dumb sometimes. Let's watch this every 2 seconds. So watch what's happening here. My system is writing in there, and all the files are done. Oh, that was quick, very quick. So the first one took a lot longer, but the other ones happened much faster. Okay, so I might say, well, you know what? That's hey Rossberger, how's it going? I'm just sans camera for today, but we're still doing Linux. We're doing benchmarking of systems and looking at like some testing methodologies that I've written up. If you guys want this slide deck is up in the Discord, but you know, I do the same thing with tests, guys. And you might think I'm kidding, but some of the guys here, like M-Pesa and some of these other guys, they've worked with me. They know that everything I do looks the same every time. I am you can think of me as like a vanilla engineer or like a very simple engineer, but my stuff works. Like my testing works, and I will figure these things out by doing the same simple things over and over again. I'm not, guys, you might think I'm doing hard stuff, but it's really just simple sleight of hand that's been done a lot. And then over time you're like, yeah, that's all he did? That's it? Really? Yeah, so over here I'm watching this loop still. Let's clear that file system up. I'm doing rm-rf on share, right? Get everything out of share. And I'm going to start doing that loop again. So there's, oh, well, let's make that directory for share again. Oh, shoot. Don't delete share, guys. That's not what we wanted to do. That was my bad. I did not mean to do that. Change it back to the right permissions. All right, so it'll be shared out again. That was my bad there. I shouldn't have deleted that. But if we go and we look, there's nothing in there right now, right? And then we'll come back over here and let's try to do that right again. And let's go ahead and say, yeah, that's all fine. That's all right. That's the right sizes and stuff. And let's see. Whoops. We might have to remount it. We might have to unmount it if you did what I did. All right, it's back. It's back. That was my bad, guys. I effed it up because I deleted it out from underneath. You can't go deleting the NFS share, guys. That was my bad. All right, so I'm writing the file. I'm over here. I'm watching it spin, and now I'm starting to see those fill up. And look, I'm seeing in real time the size of bytes of that file. Now it's going to skip to the second one, and we're going to get. Maybe that first test was a little slow. This is why you might do your tests a couple times. And then again, you're going to do like I just did, and you're going to pull out your little calculator, and you're going to add up those speeds as they're reported right over here. And this is looking to me about 55 megs, 55 megabytes per second between these. But then you compare that, that's about 1/10 the speed as we got to our own disk, right? So NFS is slower. There's no question about that. But you wanted to quantify how much slower. You wanted to know how much is it actually slower than that. All right, so we did that. And then we've still got those other files, though. So let's go back real quick and look. So that was us. We've done writes now into, if you think about this for a second, back to our original thoughts. We did writes, we did disk writes into our ext4 file system, and we did disk writes into NFS, and we got our speeds. Here were our speeds for our NFS, about, let's call that about 55, maybe 56 if you really want to split hairs, but feel free to throw it in a calculator. We got, these were our speeds to our own disk, right? This was our stuff. Now this is writing. Now let's do reading. Let's see how fast our system can pull that data back and read it if it needs to. So we're going to do the same command again. Here's the sneaky thing. I'm not doing anything that once you've seen it is hard to do. So here we were writing, oops, let's go to here, temp. So here we were writing out. But now let's flip it around. Let's say the in file that we're going to read from is temp test file $1. And the out file is going to be, well, if I wanted to just read a file and then I wanted to just drop it in the trash can, where would I throw it? Dev nulls our trash can. Now you no longer need block size or count because it's going to get that as it goes and reads the file. So now it just is going to do that. Can I write a bash snippet that asks every time you want to delete something? Are you sure? That's funny. By the way, it's by default your alias inside of root that you have interactive set, and you have to override that. That's why I use the -rf. But let's read these back. So now I'm going to read the file. Look, that's it. That was all I needed to do. And I'm going to read that file out. Whoops. Oh, you guys got to stop me, man. $i is my variable. How do I know that's my variable? Because here's my counting variable over here. I could have counted over anything I wanted, guys. Well, any well-formed variable name, right? And I just happen to use I. I is a very common, like, computer science-y way to read over things. So I'm going to read all my stuff out. And now I'm reading the... but by the way, hold on. Let's change our thing, just so that if we ever come back and look at it, we go, what the hell were we doing? I am reading the file. So I'm going to read the files back, and let's see how fast our system can access those files. Ah, look at this. How does that compare to our writing? Our writing for this was about 550, wasn't it? Let's do it again, right? It's free. It's just computationally some time. Stop abusing the INJ. Yeah. So here we go. Let's say what would you guys call that average? Let's just say 220, 230 ish. What do you think? That's a fair average, right? So that would be my read average from an ext4 file system in this configuration, in this VM world that we've got here. We've got these VMs in this lab that somebody gave us to use. And then let's see what our NFS read looks like. That, by the way, is just right here. We'll just do our MNT right here. And we'll go read the files off of NFS. Those files are filled with simply a bunch of zeros. But it still takes our system time to pull those zeros back. And here we go. Here's our NFS reads. Now, if I came over here and I just wrote this up real quick. So I said so testing notes, because I'm not going to draw it directly in that thing. Writes into ext4, and then I said NFS, and then I said reads from ext4, and maybe reads from NFS, right? Let's run it again. We give everyone a fair shake here. Our writes were about 550 MB, right? And our writes here were about 55 MB, let's say. And then our reads from ext was about 230 MB, and our reads from NFS are sharing up. I mean, that's shaping up to be about 55 MB again right there. So if I told you one of these is more asynchronous than the other, as opposed to, or asynchronous, the term would be asymmetric. If I said one of these is more asymmetric than the other, what do you guys think that means? I said one of them, the up and the down speed are more asymmetrical than the other one. Which one of these do you guys think? If I know it's a little small, let's make that bigger. Which one of these is more symmetrical anyways? Doesn't mean it's faster. It just means that the up and the down speed are more closely the same. And that is something you may value. You may care about that for some reason. Look, I can't tell you what your use cases are. What I can tell you is I don't care what your use cases are. We could figure these out. Does that make sense? This is the goal of this, guys. It's the NFS is the most symmetric of these two. If we look at this, NFS was reading and writing. In fact, I might almost say the edges to reading. But that's neither here nor there. We can test these things and get these speeds, right? So in my general testing, this is my speed. And then let's go back to my benchmark methodology. We gather information like we just did. We just gathered the system at the state that it is. And then we go and we make some planned change. We change from 1 gig Ethernet to 10 gig Ethernet. That's a very common management channel type thing that you might do. And then, or maybe you change. You're going to take your internal disks on your device and change them over to SSD boxes. They're no longer going to be the old SATA connections, right? SATA connections are still kicking, and you want to quantifiably see that it's faster than it was. Well, I tell you guys all the time, like, oh, it feels like it's faster. Oh, I don't feel like I'm waiting as long. Who cares about your feelings? Feelings aren't engineering, right? I tell my junior engineers this all the time. Like, the how you feel about a thing is literally irrelevant. Or somebody will be like, the system's acting funny, and you're like, what the hell's funny? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, that, I can't work with that. Does that make sense? So I always try to get people to get as clear as they can. But what we did was we gathered the data before, and then we go make the change. I don't care if the change is to throw the server off a cliff and then test again. You're probably going to get slower speeds after you throw it off the cliff. But then you gather that same information again, and you do the same exact tests, and you go and you do. In fact, here's the thing. You steal from yourself the exact same stuff you just wrote. Yeah, facts don't care about your feelings. That is an accurate quote. So, like, but as engineers, right? Engineering is we can build and test and measure these things, and then we can make a change, and then we track the delta. The delta is this little triangle looking symbol, right? A little triangle like this. Looks like this. Oops. This is from a different presentation. This is our delta, right? You'll see this sometimes in engineering docs. There'll be like the change. That's the change right there. I don't have a very good triangle, but let's say that this is the triangle of change. So it'll be before, and then what's the delta? So maybe we found that it was 5% faster. So it was like, maybe at first it was 550 MB, and then the change was up to like 608 MB average or something, and then we can go throw that in our calculator and we can get the delta, which is the change, as a percentage, right? And then we can figure out, it's 106%, so it's a 6% increase, or whatever, I don't know, whatever that would be on that, something in that range. But this is what we do as engineers, and like, you do these simple things, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh man, that guy really knows what he's talking about. But you're like, well, all I really did was use the same methodology over and over again to gather whatever information I want. So again, what were we doing? We were looking through and figuring out our process. Benchmarking is kind of the same idea as what we just did. We were just looking at a testing of a change. But benchmarking is the idea that we figure out how fast the system is, we experiment, then we improve the system in the way that we planned on it, and then we come back through over and over again. S3 is called S3. I thought S3 was called Simple Storage Service. Isn't that why it's called that? But maybe. I think it's Simple Storage Service. Okay, so we've done all this, but let's go look at another one. And by the way, last time I did this, I think I got kicked out of the server. But let's go to our control plane node, and let's install, let's say apt install iperf 3. So iperf 3 is a package of tools. By the way, I'm going to go to my other node. Let's say, we want to install it. And then, we'll wait. I was going to do them both at the same time. But this is a package of tools that allows us to test the speed of a system, right? Between one system and another, the network connection, as it were. So node 01, apt-y install, so we can skip that question, iperf 3. And when you run this, what you need to know about it is one server is going to act as the, one of the devices is going to act as the server. You can think of that as like the catching device if you want. And then the other device is going to act as the one that's throwing the data. Logically, you need to understand that because you're going to be sending the data from one side or the other, right? So let's do this real quick. We'll start the iperf on one server. We'll make that server node 01. So on node 01, iperf 3-s, and it'll say, okay, we're listening on 5201. That's the default port for iperf. The reason I don't have a lab for this, by the way, this is actually funny. I tested this before and it immediately kicked me out. So I think that if we do some speed testing between these two nodes, that may violate some term of service. But I looked up and tried to find a term of service, so I didn't find one. So we'll test it, right? This is one of these things. If it immediately triggers my lab, then I know that I did something bad. But then I'm going to go and I'm going to say, okay, I want to connect. So we started the server on that side, and I'm going to iperf 3-c over to node 01. And it's going to try to connect over to that machine. And it's going to just transfer however many bytes it can. And it's going to tell me, by the way, look at this. If you say M bits like that, how is that different than what we were doing earlier? When we do internal file system stuff, us server engineers, we tend to deal in file systems as aggregate throughput from end to end. What my file system, how fast does it take for you to give me a file right here that's 30 gigs in size? And those are gigabytes. Give me all the tasty garbage, right? That's how we say it. Give me garbage check on the garbage, right? Anyways, it's that raccoon, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, I can see this is in bits. So this is going to be slower when we talk aggregate file system than what we expect. Sorry, this will be 1/8. In fact, you can take that 568 in megabits per second, and you can divide it. So you can go 568 divided by 8, right? And that's 71 megabytes. But you will never talk to a network engineer that cares about bytes. They will always be caring about bits. So just know that. And know that the capital and the lowercase right here. By the way, some of you are going, Scott, come on, man. Everybody knows this. One or two of us don't know this. So I'm telling you. If it's a lowercase b, they always mean bits, but they're spelling it out for us. If it's a capital B over here, they always mean bytes. So actually, they broke it down for you. But that's nice that they broke it down for you because that's what that means. Okay? All right. Did I miss anything? Oh, Dev Suthar, thanks for coming by. Abdin, thanks for coming by. Did I miss something? I joined the Discord, server name, Redmiz. Yeah, you guys are welcome to hang out. I always appreciate when people come by and hang out in the Discord and talk shop with us, right? We got a bunch of different engineers down there talking about a bunch of different things. So I can't keep track of all of them, but I try to help you guys out and try to, keep stuff going. I ask questions in there like, what are we working on and what are we studying? This is the end of the week. This is just a Friday. I have date night here in a few, probably in about 30, 40 minutes with the wife whenever she gets home. Yeah, the Kibby bits. Yeah. And well, so guys, then there's a base 10, base 2 that also causes these to be different, but we won't worry about those right now. Oh, by the way, down here, they gave us the actual speeds, right? So that's kind of cool. We got some testing done. And by the way, look, on the server side, it also gave it to us. So if I needed to, I could grab this exact thing right here and go throw it in my notepad, and I can say speed before some change, right? Boom, there's my speed data, and I can make it smaller so it fits real nice. And then I can say made change to network around, I don't know, like maybe we're doing MTU, so jumbo frame. Right, we set up jumbo frames in our environment. We can't do that in this environment because we don't own the back end networking. But we set that up, and then we rerun our check, and we expect it to be faster by some. But I don't know what to expect. This is where I always tell you guys, one test is worth 1,000 expert opinions. I would have been guessing to tell you anything about the speed between these two systems before I just did this. Now I know what they're at right now. Now I know how many megabits per second I can push between these. Now, but is that the aggregate that I got through NFS? Not exactly, right? So, yeah, and by the way, guys, then we go and we start reading the iPerf 3 man pages or the -- help sometimes, and we can start to see all this other stuff. I can go for a longer time. I can do a certain number of bytes. I can have it race to 500 bytes or something, or 2 gigs or something. I can do all kinds of things here, guys. I can use a different port, but the default port was 5201, so that's what it wants to use. But if you've got to get past a firewall and local, I've told you guys this before, but me and my boss about a year ago, he and I, he works on this. So my boss works on all the projects, right? Because he's the owner, one of the owners of the company. And I work on all the projects that I normally work on. But sometimes over lunch, he says, "Hey, Scott, can you help me out?" So I say, yeah. So we spin up. What we wanted to do was we had to test. I'll draw out what we were testing for you guys here. Let me get rid of all this. Hold on. Erase all ink on this slide. This is what we wanted to test. We had right here. I've drawn this up for you guys before. Let's see if I can get my damn pen to work. We had some customer. We're going to call them customer. And they had some server. And this server had 2 connections out to the world. We had primary and we had secondary. Right? So we had secondary and primary, and those were 2 different fiber links up to the world from 2 different providers. Okay? This is a real thing. This was the internet. And they were set at 10 gigabits. 10 GB. But they wanted us to prove. Now we didn't provide these. Some internet vendors that they had. But we were the ones building out the system. Prove the speed. Or another way to say it is, are we getting the speed? On the secondary link, they weren't sure. So they said, can you figure that out for us? So me and my boss, again, this was like over lunch. I was actually listening to a P1 incident on a vendor or on one of my customers. And what we did was we came over here and we built a little cloud out here inside of AWS. We stood up a AMI. So an AMI is an Amazon Machine Image, and then we spun up a virtual machine that had iPerf. Right? So we put iPerf out here, just like we just did in the lab. And what he did was he took this connection here, and for the first test, we went out the primary link, which was the always up link. And then he turned the link off. So this was test 1. So test 1 was primary. And then T2 was secondary. So he cut this link, and he told this device to go out the secondary to this Amazon machine. So now when you set up an Amazon machine, these, by the way, these were 10 gig links. Your average VM has a 1 gig throughput that's allowed. That's what the interface, which is called the ENI, the Elastic Network Interface that gets attached to any of your virtual machines, is going to be 1 gig. So we had to go with a big enough VM, which was like an M3 large. And we set up this M3 large, and for it to be on for 1 hour was about, I want to say like $2. So we had like a $2 charge to turn this machine on and turn on iPerf on it and then do these 2 tests. And we were good on the 1 test. And then the secondary test was a little iffy, and we had to do some stuff to test. And then we verified that, yes, indeed, their speed was 10 gig from both provider. That's a lowercase b. We proved that. Did we have to prove it? Well, we wanted to give them some confidence that their vendors were not. And by the way, we were a vendor to them. We were the ones building stuff, but we weren't providing those links. But we could very quickly test and prove that their links were the speed that they wanted with the exact same methodology I just showed you guys. That's it. And you might go, well, that seems really simple. It was simple. He was sitting there munching into the microphone while he and I were working on this stuff. And I was like, kind of like, we did this over our lunch. What do you mean? So look, last chain. If you go, I'll show you here. And it's not all of them. It's the default though. Let me pull this up real quick. Hold on. Where'd my killer coda go? Here. So if you go to Amazon, right, console. Let me show you guys here. Let's log into mine. And then we go to, I think it's that one. Oh, I might not know it. Maybe it's that one? Oh, here we go. Okay. So we're going to go in. Yeah, EC2 instances. Yeah, they're limited bandwidth to their Elastic Network interfaces. So let's go to EC2. And if we go to like our AMI catalog, and we can look at any AMIs that are out there. For me, I have my own AMIs that I build, and I automate the building of them. But yeah, smaller versions of your AMIs, when you go to launch them, let's go to my AMIs. Here's my Packer Builder one that I had maybe. If I go look at this, and I come down here, when he first came on, and he's turned off right now, but his Elastic Network Interface, the ENI that was assigned to this machine. Where do I see? Hold on, I'm looking for his. It's probably because this is just his Amazon machine image. We don't have him spun up, so let's launch him. We'll just launch an instance from him real quick, and I'll show you guys some test. Most of my stuff is all I'll build stuff automated. But AMI from my catalog, it'll be my AMIs here. Owned by me. This is one that I built on stream years back. Hold on real quick. And here's my T2 micro. So by the way, right here, his this information right here, if I wanted to compare the instances, what I would need to do is I would need to probably jump down to, see, T3 small. These are all too small. but I need to go compare on things that are not being shown here. In here, we're just seeing the CPU and the memory. They're not showing me the network connections. So watch, we come over here, we compare the instance types. Now they're giving us a little more. And what we need, we really need network performance, but we probably need to see, so see up to 5 gig. And maybe that's what their average is now. But what we needed for this was a medium, because we had a 10 gigabit elastic network interface that was added to the machine. If we had just tried to do this and I had just went and spun up a T2 micro trying to save us a little money, because that's only a few pennies, we could only get 1 gig in. So our speed would have been throttled and we would have looked like some idiots, because it was an AMI that got spun up into an EC2 instance. I should be clear on that. We were able to prove that we were getting the speed. I think we used like an A1 medium or something like that. We didn't need, no, that's see how that's ARM? We use x86 for sure. So it might have been like a C1, C3 large might have been a little high. I want to say it was, I thought it was just a normal something large. But any of these with their 10 gig, and then look, if I go look at this, so I'll select this instance, it'll tell me what it costs per hour. Yeah, here it is. Okay, on-demand Linux-based pricing. Yeah, it was about $1.50, $1.60 for the hour. So that's about right. And we only needed it on to do these tests, the time that we had it, and then we turned it off. And what I did was I stored that machine back as an AMI if we ever needed to spin it up again and run it in the future. I had everything set up on it. All they had to do was turn it on. And what I did too was I slapped a... So you have elastic IPs, and if you use elastic IPs up to 5 of them in AWS, you don't get charged anything. But if you put them on a box and then turn it off, you do get charged. But it's like pennies. It's like 50 cents a month. And my company was accepting of that, because when we locked that down, what that meant was our test could just happen again off that other box without us having to go re-find. Now look, it's not hard to find what your external IP is, but maybe you're dealing with 2 people that don't do anything with AWS. There you go. Diamond, I don't think they have anything that goes externally to 100. Internally, they have really high speed, low latency links for the, but that's not an ENI anymore. Your elastic network interface only goes up to, I believe, 10 gig. And then you have to there's other types of networks that can be connected. I'm forgetting right off what those are called, but there are faster links, Diamond, that are local for like if you're doing like a Lustre backend or something. Lustre is a super high speed, LUSTRE. Yeah, LUSTRE is Lustre, which is a very high speed file system, distributed file system that we use in the space that I work in, the high performance compute space. So anyways, look at this. Look, I mean, oh, by the way, I missed the Ranger cam check earlier. There's Ranger. Somebody Ranger checked me earlier. I think it was, who was it? Was it Moop Moop or somebody? Somebody wanted to see Ranger. There's Ranger downstairs. It's 112 today in Phoenix today. Let me check. Hold on. Hold on. Phoenix got to... I don't see it, but... Oh, we're 112 right now where I'm at, so that's brutal. All right, anyways, there's Ranger Cam. You guys want to see Ranger? He's 73 downstairs. He's nice and comfortable. Don't worry about him. All right, look, we got 6 minutes left on the lab. That was a lab. When we get this all said and done, that was a simple lab on testing and doing testing suites, and that's SUITES, yeah, suites, not SWEETS, which would be a different type of testing. And this is how I do it, right here. So if you need these slides, these are up in the Discord. They're called the Linux Systems Administration. I have more to add to them and make them better, but these are the ways that we may test a box, go figure things out, change the configuration. And our planned change between the two systems was to cut over between the primary and the secondary network, right? That's what we did. And that worked really well. And we tested, we were able to prove. Now, I mentioned there was a little bit of a hiccup. The hiccup was, and this is probably part of why they thought they weren't getting the speed, any one connection seemed to be, when we were testing it, limited to 500 megabits per second. So what my boss ended up doing was he was sending the connections, and just doing an individual thread wasn't fast enough. But when he got up to like 30 threads, he did almost 30, I think. It was like in the mid 20s. What happened was we did utilize all 10 gigs of that bandwidth over multiple threads, and that at least proved the connection was working at the speed that they said. It did not help if we were using some kind of single threaded app. That thing was going to be throttled in a different way than the other link, but that's important. Sorry, I'm having people message me, so I'm looking down at my phone for a second. All right, but this is what we do, guys. This is system testing and benchmarking and different testing stuff. All right, so then we got troubleshooting, but we won't do troubleshooting right now. I'll probably we're at an hour. I don't hop on for too long on Fridays, but I'll hang out for a little bit longer because the wife's coming home. But let's close down the lab. You guys don't have to do the lab anymore. I'll unpin it on the YouTube side. The Twitch side it already fell off. But let's go look at. We'll check out some Prometheus stuff in the home lab for a little bit. I guess we'll hang out in the home lab for a little bit. What do we got here? So here's my home lab stuff. I don't really have anything right now that I need to clean up. I mean, I have a lot of stuff in the home lab that I got to clean up, but I don't have anything that I want to clean up right now. So what we could do is, let's check some. Let's go check. I think I ran something the other day to show you guys. So let's see if my system here is running my Bastion host or not. And you say, well, Scott, don't you remember? And I say, well, one, no, I don't. I don't remember anything. And two, it would have been reported out if I set it to report, but I don't remember if I turned it on or not. So let's go check. So the way my Bastion works in this environment, there's a couple of things. But let's see if there's an ID for Streamer 1. That's what I call him. Streamer 1 does exist, so that's something. And then another thing that I need to do is I need to, let's just cat out etc sshd underscore config and look at the bottom. And we do have the jail stood up. So the jail for Streamer 1 is down in var chroot. So if I cd to var chroot, I do have the jail environment set up here. So you might say, well, what's that mean to have the jailed environment? Well, what that means is if I clear this screen up and that chroot is there and I chroot as the root user to var chroot, I am now down in a shell that is locked down completely like I'm that user. And then if I try to do like ID or bash, I can't do anything in here anymore. But I can do bash because bash is a command I have. But I should be able to SSH to the far node, which is, by the way, the last thing that I'm allowed to do. So that's okay. So I have the jail stood up. So that's fine. I just wanted to check if that's there. Let's see. The real J Sega said, off-topic question. Hopefully this is okay at the end of the stream. I'm currently working help desk for a public school district in a rural area. Is it practical to aim for a Linux-focused job from this, or should I focus on other things to bridge to Linux admin? Let me ask you this, real Sega. Are you doing Linux, or is not you doing Linux? You're doing help desk, and that's fine. That's actually my wife does help desk, in case you guys don't know that. In IT, in fact. She's been a help desk IT person longer than I've been an IT person, so that's kind of funny. But real Sega, so does your school district do Linux? Do you guys have Linux for you to do there so that you can transition over there? Or are you just thinking, I want to do Linux, but I'm going to have to leave this job? That would kind of be my thoughts for you. Is that would shape the rest of my answer? Because here's what my thinking is. If you don't have Linux there, then your help desk experience is good, but it's really just IT experience to somebody else. Know some Windows and mainly Google Workspace. Yeah. So you're probably going to have to leave there to get into Linux then. However, your job experience there is still valid experience. So yeah, that would be my answer. But what I tell you guys often, and I tell my college students this too, some of you guys, I don't make this a big deal, but people that know me know that I've been teaching college for 15 years as well. And my thing that I tell my college students is you do sometimes have to, move somewhere else, but all of those skills are transferable. But we sometimes on here, we'll go look on like Dice. If I could type, geez, my hands are not working today. Dice.com, right? And we just come in here and we look up Linux system administration. Or just Linux, right? It'll find it for us, hopefully. But Linux system administration. And look, this one, I don't even know if these guys ever hire anybody. This job is always open. It's always the first one. And we come in here and we look at what skills we need. And we start to figure how to get our hands on that, right? I would say get your hands on as many admin projects as you can and move to a sysadmin role. And new sysadmin role, try to pivot to Linux if that's what you want to end up. I would agree with that, IO Fault. One of the things that I tried to do in our Discord, and I don't claim any great expertise in this, but if we come to our Discord and we get out of the messing around channels, down here, I have a fair number of projects for you guys to go work on. There's some monitoring stuff, and there's ways to get into Killer Coda and get monitoring, and then you can go and you can build these different pieces out, and you could at least show somebody that you know how to do this stuff and that you can build this stuff. How to prove that you have the skills when applying for jobs. A certificate is always required. No, you don't always need. The question was, is it always required? I don't think you always need a degree or a certificate. I think what you need to do is to show people that you understand how these systems work. So if I was trying to get nowadays into Linux, what I would do to show somebody that I knew Linux was I would go build some labs. I would go play around in Linux and figure stuff out and basically show like that I know how to do troubleshooting and I know how to do monitoring. Because when you go back to these jobs over here, right, I can guarantee you without even going in here, we'll see if I'm right. I bet you the term monitoring is used, and I bet you the term troubleshooting is used. Let's go. I've never been in this iSoft Tech thing. Let's go look. Read full job description. They want some knowledge. They want some knowledge. They want some stuff. They want, well, these guys don't ask for a whole lot. Let's see. Let's check for trouble. I don't see troubleshooting. All right, so I was wrong. But the point is, yeah, the certificate shows that what I think certificates show is that you can study a body of knowledge. A BOK, a body of knowledge. They do show that you understand and have studied to a certain standard, but all in all, they don't necessarily mean that you know how to do the work, which is one of the reasons I like doing hands-on type stuff. That was a bad example. Any of these other ones, though. This Yo IT, they're like a contract service, but 50 to 60 an hour, that's not a bad place to start. And they want you to have various knowledge and basic Linux command line. Well, that's real low level. that's real basic. You're not asking for much, guys. Let's see what else they say. They want you to, let's see, support and debugging, which is troubleshooting. They want you to be able to set up systems, do repo branches. They want you to know Git. So they're asking you to be a Linux person, but they want you to know some DevOpsy type stuff, and that's valuable, right? And we touch on all these different things, but again, even if it's not my labs, even if you're like, Scott, I don't like any of your labs, if you just go to Killer Coda at the base website, which is a free site, like they don't charge anything. This guy has like 20 Git labs right here. Not Git labs, they're labs on Git. But you can come in here and just start doing Git if you've never done it. And then you could at least put on your resume, I understand Git. And if somebody asks you about it, you can say, hey, you know what? I did go ahead and create a Git repo from an empty repo, and that was an interesting behavior. And then I understood that I could push changes by doing commits, right? I can pull and push changes. I can change branches. I can do all of these different things, and I can at least talk to it for a minute, which is longer than you could before you did all this work, right? So I always tell you guys, engineers can tell pretty quickly if somebody else that's coming for a job or an engineer in general understands a tool the same way as them. They can tell that pretty quick. So what you want to do a lot of the times is just, say, hey, I'm a beginner at this, but I understand the basics of it. And I think that that's very valuable. When you're sitting with like the tech interview type, when people start asking you the tougher questions, you can say, hey, I don't know everything, but I have stood them up and I have pulled them down, I have pushed them, and I've cloned repos and I've done a pull request, and yeah. And by the way, I have labs out there for you guys to do pull requests against for people that want to get a little more in there. Also, I missed a couple follows. Thanks for the follows, guys. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Gierdo, you said, I talked to some software engineers the other day, and they said that most of their DevOps engineers in the company were senior developers. So do you think these operations roles like DevOps or SRE are realistic for a beginner on IT? You might not find yourself there as a beginner, but you can fall into systems administration work. You may move from your help desk over to like a network operations. And it was mentioned earlier, kind of just get in the sysadmin role. Get in some role where you're touching the system and looking at the monitoring of it. You're not building it yet, but you can understand the monitoring and get in there. And you're probably like, well, that's already what I'm doing on the help desk. Yeah, you're getting skills, but to be handed the reins of a system as a Linux engineer, you kind of have to spend time inside of Linux. So, and they may want you to do it professionally with them for a while. So that's something to think about. And on the YouTube side, hey guys, thanks for coming by. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We are just, looking at systems, and now we're kind of looking at jobs and looking at what are the same things across all Linux systems administrators or engineers. This wants to redirect me to something external. I don't necessarily like that, but there's the Northrop Grumman position, right? You come down here, they want us to know Linux system administration on large classified government, so you're going to have a government contract for that, right? And it's definitely Red Hat, right? So you want to know some Red Hat. They want you to know how to support multiple networks, so they're going to ask you for some networking stuff. And by the way, so when they say this, if you guys have never seen this will sometimes get you. But the DoD 8570 IAT Level 2, this is requiring a certificate. You do need to have a Security Plus in this case, or something higher like a CISSP. So I sometimes pull these up on stream and show you guys. The DoD 8570 is like a U.S. standard. I'll be getting off here soon. Whenever the wife texts me, she should be heading home. Let me check my phone here, make sure I'm not missing anything. See if she's heading home yet. All right, I'm texting her. Masters with 7 years experience. Sure. Oh, does that say it somewhere? Oh, geez, yeah. So this isn't an entry level one. Oh gosh. But what are they paying for this? Hold on, what are they paying for this? It's okay, right? That's okay for what they want. Well, you're right. For what they want, it's a bit high. But you guys got to understand that's what happens. That's what happens a lot in government stuff. If you go for government, like Lockheed Martin, like I got in with Lockheed Martin years ago, and the reason I got hired was I had a master's degree. That helped me greatly to get on. When I went to move up to a further level in my career, they wouldn't let me become a senior hardware engineer there. That was my title, even though I did all Linux every day. I was a hardware engineer. That was like a generic title on my project. I had to go get a second master's degree and my second master's degree is an engineering degree, and I had to do that because the MBA was enough to get me in the door, but the Masters of Information Systems Management was what got me my my senior level, but I couldn't do that. Here's some really weird. Hold on, real quick, guys. I need to go check something. Ranger's right there. Ranger's not alerting, but that was a requirement for me to get my senior level hardware engineering at Lockheed Martin many years ago. All right. Let's see if... This is the Discord. You guys are welcome to hang out, and nobody's been posting it, so I'll post the Discord in case anybody wants to go hang out down in there. And I'll post it on the YouTube side as well, so you guys have it. Discord's always going to be free. You guys are welcome to hang out down there with other maybe like-minded engineers, and you can talk about security. We got all kinds of security and cloud topics and systems engineering, and some people are even coders in there. We have some coders. We allow everybody, right? They can all hang out and do whatever. This one's a bit wild. That's a bit high for what they want. It's pretty all right. That's probably a senior or a staff position with them, because that pay is right in line with most government. Senior, it's that's about a mid to high senior and low staff position. Staff is typically a level 4 in a government. Geardo, I am not, hopefully I'm saying the last part of your name right, but Geardo, I am not following really a schedule, especially on Fridays. I just kind of hang out. But I tend to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Fridays I get on earlier before date nights with the wife. And then Sundays we do all labs. It's all labs on Sundays. That's the whole time. Yeah, there's so much stuff there. Juan over on YouTube said there's so much stuff there, it can get overwhelming. I 100% agree with that. So one of the things you need to do is find the thing that interests you, right? Can I let me show you guys something. There's a thing. Have any of you guys, and I don't give a whole lot of like platitudes or secular advice. Platitudes means like high-minded talk that doesn't get you anywhere, and secular advice is just like just like there's nothing behind it. Is the meaning of that? But have you guys ever heard isekai? Is it, no. What is it? It's purpose and drive Japanese. I thought it was isekai. What is that thing? Oh, ikagi. I always get I get that mixed up with the So let me show you guys this real quick. Ikagi. The other thing I said, the thing that I said isekai is when you die in an anime and go to a different world. Unami is the type of noodle. Yeah. Oh, but Io fault. The plan for date night is the wife is coming home from. She was at one of our aunt's house, or aunt, however you want to say that, and she was just hanging out with her all day. She lives about an hour away, and I had to work today, so the wife was hanging out with her. She cuts her hair. She kind of takes care of her a little bit because she's a little bit more elderly. I had lunch with her and stuff, and then she's coming back in town. And when she comes back in town, we typically hang out. Sometimes we go see a movie. A couple weeks ago, we went and took in a show. There's like a dinner theater out here, and we watched A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, which was kind of fun. It was a kind of this play about a guy who was killing all of his relatives to be the highest in the and becoming the royal whatever baron he was or whatever. But to the question, somebody said like finding. So her and I will probably grab something to eat, and then we might go somewhere. Or we might just hang out here and watch shows. That's what the wife and I do a lot. We just hang out with Ranger Dog, right? Although Ranger, like, you can't really take Ranger anywhere anymore. He's kind of too old. I'll walk him to the mailbox sometime, which is like halfway down the block, but he doesn't. He walks back really slow, and I'm like, come on, Ranger, like, you can't walk this slow back, right? But we love Ranger. He's just getting old. But back to this. Somebody was asking. Like, what? How do you, like? There's so much stuff. Yeah, it was Juan. He was just saying there's so much stuff. Well, this is this really cool little idea. This will at least give you somewhere to start. Let's not do that one. This is probably the one I've seen before. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Maybe one of these will be in a bigger format. No, they've got it pretty small. Let's just go click over there. All right. So what this is an idea around, like, what do you want to do, right? And I don't think that this is super, like, this is more like when you're like brainstorming, but this isn't like rubber meets the road stuff. My rubber meets the road stuff is here. So some of you guys want to know about, like, what should I do or what do I want to do? There's this little self-assessment matrix that we went over. I went over this the other day, so we won't spend too much time on it. But the self-assessment, where the hell is it? Where's this thing? Hold on. All right, give me a second. Gotta reopen it. For some reason, it doesn't want to open. There we go. This is my little self-assessment matrix. This is up in the Discord, by the way, but it's like the things that you do. By the way, look, there's my same testing methodology. I told you guys I'm a one-trick pony. Once something works, I do the same thing. Oh, Juan, you meant on the Discord. By the way, there's a beginner start here, which is just Linux, and it's just like YouTube videos that are Linux-based, so you could do that. But really, I mean, I would just say hang out in the Discord and see. Also, we've got a big event coming up in Discord at the beginning of August, so for people that can wait that long, we're going to have a whole bunch of different guest speakers coming in from around the industry, just people that I've worked with, people that know me, and that kind of stuff. But anyways, this is the self-assessment where you go in and you assess how well you know these things and how interested you are in these things. And then you look at some business stuff, and then you look at some interests in business, and then you do like a SWOT analysis. So internal to you, what are you good at and what are you bad at? And then external to you, what opportunities are there? What threats are there? And then you go and you write those up and you figure out how to solve these things, right? Some of you don't like to read, and you'll never read. But did you know there's all kinds of YouTube? Like if you want to learn cloud stuff, there is so much stuff out there on YouTube with the reInvent videos that will get you up to speed to at least take a certified cloud practitioner and then an AWS Solutions Architect Associate. You could for sure just watch those enough and get ready to take those 2 tests. Now, you might want to get some directed study before you go for some of the other certs, but those 2 basic ones, you could learn that stuff on YouTube for free if you just want to sit around and watch it. And there's literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of YouTube videos with reInvent. It's called reInvent. It's the AWS free conferences, and it's just it's reInvent, not reinvented. Yeah, there we go. I'm having to correct my closed captioning over there. Closed captioning likes to, if I'm not looking at it, which I very rarely do, it's just down there saying words that are not even related. Ever go over writing custom Ansible modules on stream? Cheeto, I'm not as good at those. I've only modified Ansible modules. I've never written one from scratch. I have modified them, though. Me and M-Pesa have done that before. And I wouldn't be against doing it. I think that might be a fun little thing to do. That will look a lot more like coding. But, I mean, we could do that. Yeah. And Monkey Man, hey, thanks for coming by. You're getting here right near the end. I'm just kind of hanging out and talking shop. But somebody was asking, like, there's a lot of stuff. And he was talking about it in the Discord. But I'm saying in general, if you're trying to figure out where you want to go as an engineer, what do you want to do? I would say start with Linux, right? Because Linux fulfills some of this, right? All of us love Linux. That's cool. The world needs more Linux engineers. Don't let any market or any analysis out there tell you that Linux isn't needed. I can tell you, we were just looking. There's all kinds of jobs out here that they need for Linux stuff. Now, granted, a lot of people want other things, but they're just calling it a Linux engineer. You can be paid for it, and you can be paid pretty well for it, and we can work on getting good at it. Now, we probably want some ability. I tell you guys this, and I say it tongue-in-cheek, but it's true. Some of you can deal with sitting here, and some of you can't. Some of you, like this right here, sounds like the worst day of your life. You're like, I do not want to sit at a black background with green or white letters all day. But I can tell you, this is the job. This is the job right here. This is it. Look for the nodes, right? SH2 lab, 5 or something. Go to the nodes, work on the nodes, add the stuff, remove the stuff, clean up the stuff. This is what we do all day. All day. This is what I do. Command line. And if that sounds like the worst thing you've ever heard of in your life, well, then this was the best free advice you ever got. Don't go be a Linux engineer, right? Go be a Windows engineer. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being a Windows guy. Now, you might not make as much as a Linux engineer. Maybe you will at the upper echelons. I don't know. But anyways, so somebody asked, hold on, let me go look at this question here. CH root environments and prod? Oh, yeah. To deploy and build servers? Yes. Let me look at this question. Hold on. Cuddlingus said, that's funny. Cuddlingus. Yeah, not the other word that I bet it wouldn't say. Kind of unrelated, but how would you pivot experience to somewhat related field like support in niche customer service role, application technical support into more broader areas that you might not have direct enterprise experience, like pivoting into Linux admin type work? That's a good question, Cuddle. Let me show you. You can have different versions of your resume. So let me pull something up real quick. Let me pull up my example. I have an example resume that I use for you guys when I want to show you guys my resume. Some of you guys have seen it before. Some of you might not. You go pull it up. It's called Het, so it's my Het Tanis instead of my Scott resume. And it looks like this. So this is the one that has not all of my personal info in it, right? Oh, where'd you go? Get back here. And we're going to go to View, and we're going to change to dark mode. There you go. So it's easier for you guys to read. And this is my actual resume. This is actually my one-page resume that I have. But it's shortened down. It's obfuscated enough that it doesn't give my address and my actual name. It does have my real GitHub, and it does have my real Killer Coda stuff, though. But how do you access chroot on K3s on a single container? Not sure if people have ever had to do that. Isobu, you wouldn't really access chroot in a running container. That's not really how you would do it, but you might chroot and build a container and then deploy it. That's a thing that happens. So I wouldn't do that on a running system. if that makes sense. But you can go into, so isobu, you can exec into a container that's running, there's a typo, but your thing would work. All right, so anyways, watch, come here real quick. This is my stuff. So where I'm going with that is, if I wanted to pivot, so I'm already a Linux engineer. That's literally all I do all day is Linux. But if I wanted to pivot, and I've done this before, I actually pivoted over into security, and I was the red team lead at AAA for a while there, and I was the red team technical engineering lead. And the way I did that was, instead of my resume down here talking just about Windows and Linux stuff, I switched it up, and I don't have one of these stripped down for you guys, so I unfortunately can't show you that exactly, because it would have all my info up here, which I don't care if you guys know my name's Scott, but I don't want you guys to know everything else. I got asked on the YouTube side, could I do a Bacula backup guide? I actually have a Bacula lab written up that I haven't deployed yet to Killer Coda, but I would definitely do Bacula. Bacula is an excellent tool. It works really well, and it's really a big standard for high performance compute. So Bacula is a great tool in case you guys haven't ever used it. I'm probably one of their few Bacula backup administrators. Not because I'm one of the only people that can do it, probably because I'm one of the only people that bothered to take their test. When you do their training, at the end, they tell you on the Thursday and the Friday, they say, hey, here's the test. If you want to go do this project, if you turn it back into us, we'll grade it for you and either give you a pass-fail on your cert. So I went and I built this it's a whole backup solution. It just uses a bunch of their different pieces that you did in the class. And I did it in my home lab, and then I sent it up to them, and they were like, all right, yeah, you're Bacula backup certified. I got this nice little plaque. Not a plaque, but a nice little certificate for it. So that was cool. But I haven't used Bacula professionally for about 3 years, so I'm not as sharp on it, but I can still do it. Anyways, where I'm going with that is I would change this around. I would still have the job. The job is still infrastructure platform engineering lead, but all of my stuff here would be focused on security. I do not have an RHC. I have no Red Hat certs. I've never done RHC. Nope. I'm not one of our guys that got deep into the Red Hat. I've been doing Red Hat for the last 15 years, but I never bothered to get any of the Red Hat certs. Nope. But those are my real certs up there. Those are my real things. Worker at a company using Barrios. So I've never used BearOS, but if that's part of Bacula, then I know Bacula has backup for individual nodes as well. So there's that. Yeah. And by the way, all of my certs I really just got messing around with the guys in the Discord. We were like, we can go do that cert. And then I'd go do it, and then only one or two other people would actually do the cert with me, and I'd be like, I don't, strictly speaking, I haven't needed any of these certs in my career. But I've just been getting them the last few years kind of for fun. Cuddlingus, it's just the focus shifts. So this, it says about what I did and this stuff, but there's things that I'm not really saying here that are important. I did do this. I did develop a patch deployment system that hit all the CVSS scores that were 7 or higher within 30 days, and all of the CVSS scores within 90 days. I did do that. But maybe another thing that I might have put here that I didn't really emphasize, here it says I deployed and maintained virtualized infrastructures, and I did do that, but one of the parts of this was I did automatic CIS benchmark hardening with it, right? And actually one of our guys later, M-Pesa, kind of finished that, but I had done some of the initial baselining of the system to a simple area. Last chain, it's funny. I just got an email the other day. The guy who runs this, he hasn't run it. He moved to a different job. The guy who used to run this, he moved to a new role, so he didn't run this anymore. And I got a meetup email about 3 days ago that said, hey, the Phoenix K8's meetup is about to get scrapped if nobody meets, and you should take over ownership of it. Here's the link to take ownership. And I just was like, that's too much trouble. I'd have to maintain. And there's a really good group out here called Drive Time. Some of you guys have probably heard of Drive Time. And some of you probably haven't, but it's actually a surprisingly technology-based company. So let's see, Drive Time. Drive Time is just this. It's a car sales site, right? No, not now. You can go buy and sell cars. SM, I have never been to DEF CON, but Drive Time they do all Azure and K8s in their back back end, and they build their own technology stuff all the time. And I'm constantly looking at, like, so you can go look at their jobs, but I know a lot of their recruiters from running this, from talking and being at this group, and their recruiters, they're always posting their careers. They are hiring a lot of IT stuff. Yeah, they hire a lot in Phoenix. This is actually the facility. This view right here, that view right there. Let me get this. It'll come back around. That view is exactly where we meet in their building. They are Azure focused, but they do Kubernetes, and they do it on Linux. So, yeah. But they are a heavy IT shop. They do all their own IT. They also have, they sell cars all over the country, and that's what they do. But they have a back-end Azure infrastructure that's pretty beefy. And I met a few of their architects, went out drinking with them at one of those talks. So look at that. That's a pretty cool little knock that they had set up. But when it comes back around, the front of that building is where we talk out of. So, all right. That's that. That's just drive time. They're a company. But somebody was asking about, what do you want to do and how do you figure out what you want to do? Because a lot of people are like, well, I want to do security. But then they get in and they drop into like a GRC team, and they find out that they do not like doing, it's GRC. Governance, risk, compliance. And they find out that they do not want to do a whole bunch of auditing. Auditing can be a nightmare for humans. Like, some people do not like just looking at spreadsheets. And by the way, when you're in one of those teams doing auditing, you're not actually fixing anything. I'm the guy that's fixing stuff. I'm the Linux engineer that's over there fixing stuff. So a lot of people think they want to do security, but then they get into a security role and find out that it's not all fun. Yeah, it is. I mean, cool. If you get to do red team stuff, but red team is less than 0.5% of people in security. So just know that you're probably going to be doing defense. You're going to be playing blue stuff, right? Oh, I'm missing stuff on YouTube. I'm sorry. Thinking I need to go back to school and get some degrees inevitably. Twilight Trekker, you don't necessarily need to go back to school. I'm a college professor. I do try to tell you guys school is good. That being said, you do not need school to break into this. You do not need certs to break into this. But you do need your hands on a keyboard and often. And you do need to work on this stuff. I heard that pen testers spend most of their time doing reports. Geardo, there's a lot of prepping before pen tests, and there's a lot of report writing after pen tests. And I would say it's about a third, and a third professionally. Because I used to run all those guys. I used to run all those guys for AAA. And it's like a third of the time is planning and talking what we can do and can't do, black box versus different levels of what we're allowed to push on in our environment. And then they do their pen testing over a few weeks at night, typically, in the different engagements that we would do. And then they would write up, they would do a lot of reporting and a lot of like, hey, this is wrong and this is misconfigured, and hey, there's access here that we need to shut off. And they would have their, very critical things that need to be fixed immediately versus their things that are just informational that, there's all kinds of levels to that. But Twilight Trekker, I would also tell you, if you do decide to go back to school, a fair number of people in our community down in our Discord are doing WGU, which is a college here. It depends if you're in the U.S., but WGU is a college that allows you to do most everything remotely, and a lot of people are enjoying that. A lot of my former college students do it. Some of the people who are just working through being engineers wanted to go back and round out their resumes a little bit, so they do that. By the way, I do have in here my college, but it's not the actual colleges, but those are my actual degrees there, in case anybody cares about that stuff. That's cool. Did AAA have a large red team internally? No, Cuddlingus, they did not. There was, 10 of us or so. With management, there was probably about 12. It's pretty small. And then we did use external engagements for certain things as well. Certain specialized things that even we weren't big enough to do. So there's that. Think of starting an online education platform. Do you think I should trademark the name for it's free and open source? Or since you teach, do you have any experience with this? Apollo, I always teach. I mean, obviously I just have this, channel where the whole goal of this channel is to get you guys down in the Discord and going and hanging out with other engineers and learning that you can do this stuff, right, professionally. But teaching, I've always just been under either ITT Tech or DeVry. Those are my two colleges that I've taught at. And those are both, pretty well-respected technical colleges, although ITT Tech no longer exists because of American reasons. Yeah, Giro, I'm not technically an infrastructure engineer right now. I'm a high performance compute engineer, but I do Linux systems administration and platform engineering and infrastructure engineering. Yes. Yes, I just do it on high performance compute clusters. So the difference is negligible. But anyways, the question was WGU's pretty good, yeah. But the question was, should you trademark a name? I think you should always trademark a name if you're doing something professionally. For me, as a teacher, though, I don't ever have to do that. I just brand all my working stuff as my college that I'm teaching at, and that's all good. So, anyways, that's me. Yeah, it's actually funny. I got my CCNA back in 2002 when I was still in the Army. So that's fun. Years and years and years ago, and then I didn't love networking, so I moved out of it and I went over into um, Linux systems. Very early in my career, early 2000s, I got into doing Linux systems and kind of worked through that. So yeah, know about those things. Know how you want to get from point A to point B. There's an old saying from Lewis Carroll. Does everybody know who Lewis Carroll is? He wrote Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. And he has this famous quote that the Cheshire Cat said. The Cheshire Cat was talking to Alice, and he said, "Where do you want to go?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know." And he goes, "Then any road will get you there." And that's kind of this idea for your career. Like, if you don't know where you want to go, well, I mean, what does a rudderless ship do? It just drifts around in the ocean. But once you know, oh, look at Ranger. Once you know where you want to go, and once you kind of have then we can start to frame out a plan. Hey, I want to be a Linux systems engineer. All right, hell yeah, let's get our hands on this. Let's start building this stuff. You've been doing this for a while. Sobu, I've been doing Linux for a long time, and I've been trying to teach people. I've been unofficially teaching people for almost 20 years, and then I've been officially teaching at the college level for 15 years. Almost 16. It'll be 16 years in December that I've been teaching. But then my going out and running the professional Linux users group, that's been 10 years. Although early attempts at the group were really just us hanging out at my house. This was, early 2000, this would have been like 2014 we started. And the guys would just come over on Saturday nights, and this was before I got married and stuff. And we would just do Linux. Just hang out, do Linux, and eat pizza. And do whatever, Mima said, I'm a web dev wanting to go into platform engineering DevOps. I don't want to start over as a junior. You're in your mid-30s now. Yeah, I get it. Mima, you might have to maybe move laterally within a company, start, working, maybe find roles that you can move over into that are both, web and DevOps related. I've known some people that have been pretty successful moving within like a dev and an SRE or a DevOps type role. So there's that. So I've known some people that have done that pretty successful. Look at that Ranger dog, man. He is living his best life down there, just chilling. So, all right. Well, we're almost at time. I don't need to drop just yet because I haven't heard back from the wife, or have I? Let me check. Oh, she said to call. All right. I'm texting her back. Hold on. So I told you guys we do date night tonight typically. So, has anyone from our Discord gotten an admin job without a degree? Cheeto, yes. My brother, who is he's on there as Baraga. He is an IT infrastructure engineer 6 with AAA, and he doesn't have a degree now. He's just moved up. He's got one cert. He's got a CKA he's got 2 certs now. But he was already in that role before he got a CKA. It's very hard. You do have to be good at what you do, but like we can sit around, like people will sit around and be like, well, there's talent and there's skill and this and this. I'm not like a natural public speaker. Like I can talk to a college class. I can get up in front of any group, but that's not natural. Like I learned that over time. I did Toastmasters when I was in high school. Toastmasters is one of the best things that you can do if you want to learn how to talk in front of people. Like just go learn Toastmasters, right? But no, and then M-Pesa, he didn't have a degree when he came and worked with us, and he moved up quite a bit. He's one of the guys that's going to WGU now. So M-Pesa's one that has done it. Other people, one of our guys in there, Jay Hester, he didn't have a degree. Reed, the guy who's on there, Reed, he didn't have a degree. He does have a degree now, but when I first met him, he was really moving up in engineering. But we were at Lockheed Martin. That was one of those things I told you guys. They won't make you a certain level of engineer without a degree. So he had to actually finish his degree to get to be moved up to the next role, and that's a requirement within the business, and certain companies have that and certain don't. And that happens. Twilight Trekker said, I really want to do Linux. Looking at all the job postings, being low tech experience, no degree, no certs, it seems daunting to actually become hireable. I guess I need to go all in and hope. Twilight, my advice to that, if you're somebody that's watching this and you say, hey, Scott talks about taking this from a hobby to being, I'm Scott, by the way. Het Tanis is Scott, right? Het Tanis is an anagram, by the way. Some of you guys don't know that. But this is what I would do. If I was just here, I would get my hands on Killer Coda as much as I could. Then I would go down, like in our Discord, this is my thoughts on it, and I would go download some of our presentations, and I would go and look at some of these different things. So we have, so here, beginner start here. Here are 5 certs that you can go do for free, people. You guys want to you say, hey, Scott, I want to get into administration, but I have literally nothing to put. That resume you showed earlier, I have less than that. I have my name, my address, and my cell phone. That's all I have. And I say, all right, well, then let's start somewhere while we're learning Linux every day, because we got to get our hands on Linux. Let's go learn about APIs. API Academy is free, and the certification's free, and everything about that test, even taking the test, is free. IPv6, so you want to learn a little bit about, maybe you don't know IPv4 that well, but you know IPv6 is coming, you can go get that. And somebody might say, hey, why did you go get all of these certs that are unrelated? And you said, I just wanted to prove to you that I was ready to get into tech. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to prove that I could get into tech. Chaos Engineering, that's Gremlin. Gremlin still has a free certification out there. Chaos Engineering is, if we go pop into this, here's all the Chaos Engineering stuff, right? But there's this really awesome, if we go to GitHub, Dastergon here. This is one of the best links I've ever seen. This guy put together all this is hours and hours and hours of stuff. And then what you do is you go and you get that cert, which, by the way, again, is free from Gremlin Engineering. You go get their cert for free. You do have to study. It's not like a walk-off cert. You got to go study and be ready to take it. And there's literally, maybe 100+ hours here of reading and watching stuff. And then you put Chaos Engineering on, and when people ask you then, like, well, hey, I see you got this Chaos Engineering thing. That sounds really cool. And you said, yeah, Chaos Engineering is really just the scientific method applied to systems engineering. And they'll say, well, how so? And you say, well, Chaos Engineering is us asking, well, what if this happened to our system? And we minimize the blast radius. We do it in a dev environment before we ever do it in prod. When you say stuff like that, companies like that because they know, oh, this guy knows not to just take our shit down, right? Anyway, so what happens is you hold on real quick. Let me see if the wife's texted me back yet. I might have to call the wife real quick. Guys, can I take a real quick break? Hold on, Hourglass. I'm going to go call the wife real quick in the other room. So let's take a quick break and then finish up. But guys, the whole group, the whole reason we have this thing is to teach you guys, and it's free. Everything on Discord's free, that you guys can go do this stuff. Let me pull up Ranger real quick. Hold on, where's Ranger at? That's like Scaladra. Where's Ranger? Here's Ranger Cam. You guys watch Ranger. I'll be right back. I gotta call the wife real quick. All right, that got resolved quickly. The wife has a plan. She's coming home. Isobu, the link to the channel. This is called Beginner Start here in our Discord. So it's right down here under resources. So you go down near the bottom before you get to the voice channels. So, yep. And here's a bunch of certs that are free. All right, I'll turn this off. We don't need to take a break, strictly speaking. But the wife's going to be home soon, so I got to do date night. But look, and you might say, Scott, I don't want a Cassandra or a MongoDB cert, and I say that's fine. But while you're let me just posit that if you take these 3 certs, API, Chaos Engineering, and IPv6, those are kind of the tech ones. These other 2, they are just process engineering. They are generic engineering stuff. Somebody might ask you, hey, you put in for this Linux systems engineer. What makes you think that you can call yourself an engineer? And you go, well, I got the basic 2 certifications for Six Sigma, and I can talk all about process engineering and making processes better. And I might not be an expert in them because there's a whole bunch of other. You don't lead with that, obviously, but I'm saying you can show them like, hey, I went and studied this stuff and I understood. There's even some projects that you can do. I'll put together some projects if you guys want around Six Sigma stuff. So, yeah, it's and Cuddlingus, a lot of big organizations use Six Sigma. And you say, well, I don't want to be called a white belt. Well, the white belt stuff's free. There's then you go, there's a yellow belt, a green belt, a black belt, a master black belt. And all of those cost some money, but maybe if you're like, oh, well, I'll spend $100 to get the, but if you were going to start spending money, I would tell you, like, go get a cloud cert, go get an AZ900 in Azure or get a certified cloud practitioner in AWS. And then if you do that, we have, I would guess conservatively in our Discord of 2,000 people, we probably on the conservative side have over 100 people with that certified cloud practitioner cert. Or at least a solutions architect associate. There's a whole bunch of us. I know at least 4 of us that are solutions architect pros. But, then we can help you with that. And by the way, some of you guys have seen the presentations that I have. I have all kinds of presentations on certified cloud practitioner. So that API Academy are factually 3 certs. Hold on. Oh, yeah, you're right, Last Chain. Yeah, the API Academy is technically 3 different certs. You're right. They're about 6 hours each. And we have a study guide that one of our guys put together. If you go in, I think it's under just, I don't know where he has it. But if you just look up API Academy, it would help if I spelled it right. If you just look for API Academy, you'll find... here's the Pathfinder guide that one of our guys put together a couple years back, but it's still accurate. It's a study guide. Shows you how to do it. You still have to go read it and watch their videos and study it, but then you have the certification test right there. And you just go through the study guide, and it helps you find... Because they tell you could take as long as you want to take this test, so it's an open book test. So that helps you to study and get ready. So then again, it's just another thing that you can put on the resume that says, hey, I went and learned some things about this thing I say I want to do. Because I heard a guy long ago, he said that he wrote a book. He wrote a couple books, but one of his books was about quitting your job and writing. And then he traveled the country, and he talked to people, and everybody told him, oh, I want to write. I want to just write like you do. And he goes, how much have you written today? And they'd say, I didn't write anything today. I had to work. And he's like, if you're not writing every day, you don't want to write. And I'm going to tell you, it's similar to that with Linux. Like, if you're not doing this stuff, it's hard to prove to somebody that you want to do it professionally if you're not at least doing some of the basic stuff. Like if you're not getting your hands on it, if you're not, bettering yourself either through a degree or, I had forgotten, you could just get these certs and go pad your resume. That's a good piece of advice as well. So, all right. So there's that. Look at that Ranger dog. So there's my generic resume with, again, these certs never really been the thing that I led with. I put them up there now at the top. But when I used to look for jobs, I haven't looked. The last 6 or 7 jobs I've had, people came to me, right? And that's not me being a Chad. That's just a fact. People looked for me that knew me. And that's where you eventually want to get to. But until you get there, you have to just keep adding stuff. Look at Ranger. What is he doing? He's moving around. Sometimes Ranger lays in one place the entire stream and doesn't even move. Yeah, Cuddlingus, it's better to do a little bit every day than to try to... work on stuff all at the end of the week. Same thing with a gym. Do I recommend learning Perl nowadays? No, I wouldn't spend a lot of time in Perl. I would learn Bash. I would know the basics of Bash, and then that's PERL, closed captioning. My closed captioning's got it wrong. But Perl is where I cut my teeth in systems administration and engineering. But not a lot of teams use it anymore. So I would tell you spend your time in Bash. And then pick either heavy Ansible if you want to be a systems administrator type, an engineer, and then heavy Python if you want to go be like the DevOps and SRE type, site reliability engineer. Those guys spend over there. Computer science, I don't know how to escape math. Any solutions, kings? SSS, you're always gonna have math, right? Especially as engineers. I just try to be good at the basic parts that I need, and then reference the stuff that I don't know as well. Yeah, Golang is big too, Gyardo. Although Golang isn't as much in what I do. I don't deal with a lot of Golang, but I would tell you learn Bash, learn how to use the tool Ansible well. I have a lot of labs that'll show you how to do that. I do workshops on that. Like Sundays are all labs for us. And if you guys say, hey, let's do the basic, let's start at the beginning with Ansible this Sunday, that's what I'll do. We'll start with the very basics of running Ansible in our environment. I would do Bash. Bash is POSIX compliance, but I mean, you're going to be every modern Linux operating system you're going to be in the enterprise will be Bash. So, yeah, Ansible is just another tool to set things up. It's just the one that I happen to settle on, and I've been using it for about 11 years. I've been using Ansible now. Before Red Hat even got their hands on it, I was using it. So, all right. Well, let's go. We'll find somebody to raid out here in a minute. We've checked out enough stuff. I think we've done a fair amount of work today. We went from testing and baselining at the beginning to just kind of getting into systems engineering. I think that all of you can do this. If you are interested in this type of work, I think that you can muster up the drive to get good at it. And then that's the next part, is start getting good at it and then figure out how to show people that you know what you're doing. Yeah, Last Chain and Cuddlingus. Hopefully this stuff's useful. Let's go drop to our little end of stream thing. Let's go raid somebody on the Twitch side. YouTube side, unfortunately, it'll just end. But we'll find somebody to raid over on the Twitch side. And maybe there's somebody doing something fun. Let's go raid over to... Let's go hit Clonk. Clonk got us last time, so we're going to get him this time. So if you guys haven't followed Clonk, he does a lot of programming, a lot of low-level programming, in fact. Slightly different type of stuff than I do, but I do like to hang out in there. He's got a good energy. He's got a really, really good understanding of systems. So feel free to hang out with him, and follows are free, so you might find your favorite streamer. So, all right, take care, everyone. I'll talk to you guys on Sunday.